Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful, high level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced executive coaches to become licensed circle directors. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of support, accountability, and challenge. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. I'm really excited about the show today. I get to hang out with Hector Barresi. He's an industrial business consultant and executive coach for Sextant International out of Chicago. Hector, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, Mark.
I'm really excited. You had an amazing career, and a big part of that career, especially now, you get to be exposed to a lot of different leaders. And so I'd be really interested in your thoughts on certain traits or characteristics that separate the great ones from average leaders.
Right. So, and in my particular case, I operate with an interesting vantage point. I had 20 years of, experience working for large corporations, these multi-billion-dollar organizations around the world, like Honeywell, Danaher, GE, and others. And so I had so many leaders that I reported to, and had so many people that reported to me. And now I help the mid-market CEOs and their executive team. So I have seen a lot of good and bad leaders during my career. And I learned from the great ones, hopefully, and not from the other ones.
Oh, you learned what not to do.
And I learned probably what not to do. And now I'm helping leaders in these different segments. But something interesting about mid-market is that these CEOs, I realize, have the problems of the $10 billion companies and the resources of the $10 million companies, which puts them also in a situation where, their vision, their goals, their pressure from the board, their competitors put them really under stress. And then you see who's a great leader and who's not. And so, but again, consistently, whether it was through the big guys' lenses or to the mid-market, there are some characteristics that pop up almost systematically, right? And so one of the best things I think it's important in any great leader is their ability to set their vision. And this you may have heard this 100 times, right? Or 1,000 times, but a leader without a clear vision of where his or her company have to be from point A to point B, clear strategy to get there, right, at the starting point. And now bring their organization, rallying behind them and make these things happen is absolutely essential. Without that, it's never going to happen. Now, these leaders cannot do this alone. So how do they empower? How do they delegate? How do they coach? Is the other piece of the recipe, because it's useless to have a great leader that has a vision and knows how to do it and has a strategy and the plan, but cannot execute it because the rest is not following. So they have to be able to say the vision, delegate, have clear goals for everybody in the organization, and then help them execute and move along. And then they need to have this, I would say, low ego that allows them to be open to feedback, to embrace the right processes. I've learned from the Japanese masters how to use, for example, the Toyota system, which is one of the most effective, the Hoshinkanri methodology and Six Sigma. If you don't bring that into the organization because you think that you know everything as a leader, it's not going to be very effective, because you have the vision, you have the people, the resources, but you don't have the processes in it. And the processes bring how-tos and how to measure and how to execute and how to become efficient and how to detect root causes if something doesn't work. So I think a great leader is that combination of, great vision, great strategy, the ability to bring the organization behind and help them execute and move along and coach them, but also be able to embrace the processes that make things happen. So you need to have these three things. If there was a Venn diagram, you need to have these three things converging, and that basically they kind of fits in the middle of the three circles.
I like that. There's a lot of what you said to unpack, and here's a question for you. Because you're right, we hear people talk about having a clear vision. How precise does that vision have to be from the leader? Like, does it have to be, we want to go from $10 million to $15 million in 5 years, or does it mean we want to grow as large as we can? Like, how precise does that vision have to be?
Yes. Well, the precision has to exist, and obviously to some extent. So you need a goal, and the goal has to be, as I like to say, it has to be realistic, but also kind of be challenging. Mm-hmm. Something I learned with the Danaher's and the other companies is that if you set a challenging goal, you will do things to get to that goal that you wouldn't do otherwise. And you may never get, like, you want to go from, let's say, 100 million revenue to 50 million over 5 years. It's different what you do if you set a goal to go from 10 to 20. 10 to 20 will require for you to do some things. 10 to 50, you will do other things. That even if you get to 30 and not 50, well, the things that you did, the transformation that you accomplished, the resources that you built are going to get you much better off than otherwise. So the goal has to be as precise and realistic as you can. It has to be still challenging. But you need to have some line of sight. If you say, I'm going to go from 10 to 50, but you don't have a clue, then, right. This is a conversation I have all the time with my clients. We're going to get from here to there. Okay, I will help you, but what's the starting point, right? This is like battle strategy. Okay, you are in the war and you say, I'm going to take that bridge, now we're going to get to that city. And, well, okay, that's the goal. How are you going to do that? What's the 5 things that are going to help you get that bridge in the next, 7 days or whatever? In business is the same. We're going to multiply our revenue, or we're going to go from 15 to 25% market share. Okay, well, those are the 3 things from a strategic point of view that we have to do. And then how you break it down. So you need to have the visibility so that you can have an interesting conversation as to how you build the process. If you don't have that, then whether you have the greatest and most accurate, goal is useless, because you don't know how to get there. So I'd rather have a more modest, maybe less defined and clear goal, but at least what are the 3 pillars that you're going to start working on to get to where you want to get? I hope it makes sense what I'm saying here, right?
It does, and I think where I was going with that too is I don't think it matters. I think you can be really precise, or I think you can be really broad, but the only way you're going to achieve it is to do some of the things that you talked about, which is you now have to be reliant upon, you can set the vision, but you now have to be reliant upon your team to help get you there. The people who understand the logistics, who understand the processes, who understand that. And so now setting that vision provides them these boundaries, or this pathway of where they need to focus their job and their where their focus needs to be. Let me say it that way. And that is, and then your role becomes to clear the pathway so that they can achieve that vision that you've set, but they're putting all the wheels in motion.
They're putting these things in motion. And at the same time, when you establish this path or that idea or strategy, you have to define what are the indicators of success, call it KPIs or whatever you want to call them. But okay, this is how are we going to measure progress. This is what we believe are the, the low-hanging fruits that will start solidifying the path. It's like you need the stepping stone, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you need to build this in a coherent way. And those initial wins are going to, first of all, let you know if you are doing the things in the right direction, but also solidify your path and also the morale of your people. They see that this makes sense, that the initial wins are proof of concept that the thing
Mm-hmm.
is happening. And if they don't, then what do we need to correct? What is the root cause of, call it, failure or no success, which is very common. And all these large organizations that I work for, having goals or targets in red, what's called green, yellow, red, you always use these indicators.
Mm-hmm.
Having failed some goals was not considered a bad thing. It was like actually an indication of, okay, there is a root cause that we need to address and we need to fix it and we need to move
Mm-hmm.
forward, right? So, but you need to start proving the strategy is working, and if it's not, you need to kind of regroup and say, okay, is that the strategy is wrong, or is that we are not doing the right things, and
Right.
then make the necessary corrections. But you do this as a team, right, with your whole organization.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I think setting that vision, developing pathways for people to get there. How do we measure our success along the way? What is my role as the leader? Well, my role is to clear that pathway to make sure that we're putting you in a position to be successful. And then I think the one thing that we haven't talked about that I think is really important is for the leader to share what everybody's role is in this journey to that vision so there's clarity along those lines.
Correct. Yeah, I think I mentioned it too quickly at the very beginning when I talked about setting goals and objectives for
Hmm.
each one of the people in the organization. I've seen, among other things, I went through 8 different mergers and acquisitions where you are integrating different teams, and now there is confusion about the acquisition. There is fears. Also, there is also a lack of what's my role here,
Hmm.
right? So, when whether you're really talking with a startup or with after an acquisition, you say, okay, this is where we are now. This is where we want to be 3 years from now, and this is, you know, each one's role in this endeavor. And so it's absolutely critical to make sure that, number one, the team understands where the company is going, then how their contribution is critical to success, and then how they contribute. What is their role? And
Yep.
especially why. Some people sometimes they feel that, why me? Why do I need to do that? Why have I been put in charge? And sometimes they don't realize that they have other particular talent, accomplishment, experience, or skill, like the ability, if you are looking for someone like a project manager, someone who can really network with everybody across different organizations and across departments is critical, the guy that bring everybody together. And they may not even realize that. So it's not just about telling them how they contribute, but also why they are in their role, so that they really feel that there is a good value added that they bring into this collective effort to get to,
Right.
I always like to say, from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely critical. But also, you delegate them, you empower them to make the decisions, because it's not just about, oh, yes, I have to do this, but I have the ability, I have this delegated authority in me to make these decisions, because
Hmm.
my manager, my leader trusts me, and that helps also in terms of motivation, but also speed and execution. I don't have to sign and approve everything.
Hmm.
They know how much they can approve, how much they can delegate themselves. They also need to have leadership with their direct reports, because this is it's a pyramid, right? They also have people
Right.
that report to them, and they also need to feel the same way. So is what their role is, but also the delegation, the authority, and also the fact that I will support them. They have my trust that I will support them, and we will work together if there is any roadblocks along the way.
Hector, I think you and I could talk about this for another hour or so. This has been fun. Thank you so much for taking your time. Would you do me a favor? Would you share with our audience what a typical engagement with you looks like, and how could people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. And I can give you a very recent series of engagement that had been popping up during this year, which is CEOs of mid-market organizations that they want to do something about AI.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be a distraction. This could be a disruptor. This same project we've been talking about could be completely, taking off track just because now they want to bring AI into the organizations. So a typical engagement right now is we have a mid-market CEO companies. A mid-market could go from $50 million to $500 million organizations. They call me and say, Hector, we need some guidance here. We need some process. We want to embrace artificial intelligence into our organizations. We do not know where to start. We think that each department could do their own thing, or maybe not. We don't know where we need to focus on tools. We don't know how much we need to invest. We don't know what AI would do for us, right? So I just developed a 7 workflows process that operates through 4 different dimensions that I'm deploying with these companies, starting from the strategy, the vision, working through the organization, the people, looking through the data, governance, looking at what engineering a project with AI would look from the start, as opposed to sticking a band-aid on AI, accelerating that processes and making them worse. So typical project right now, for the last 4 months, have been really helping them deploy strategic enterprise AI across the organization so that all departments have a common goal, results are additive, the tools are consistent, the data has governance, and obviously the cybersecurity is taken into consideration. But the same would apply to a company that says, Hector, our company is falling behind in innovation, our sales are down, our costs are high, supply chain is completely out of control. Can you help us turn around this organization and fine tune it and make sure that we do the things that we need to do in the right way? You add AI on top of that, that would be the most typical scenarios right now. But in general, it's about operational excellence, lean enterprise, and leadership. Make sure that each leader in the organization knows what their role is, help them become brilliant at executing that role, and help them embrace the best processes possible.
I love it. I love it. And then how can people get a hold of you?
The best way to do it is actually there are 2 ways. One is go to Hector Barresi on LinkedIn. You can direct message me, or you can email me at hbarresi, Barresi, at sextant-international.com. hbarresi at sextant-international.com.
Awesome. Hector, this has been a blast. Thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all, we've done it again. We found another amazing leader to share insights on your journey to the CEO seat. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and significantly impact the lives of CEOs and entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.